Hi Kodiaks, Miss Queener here. I'm going to read you guys a couple poems from Today at the Bluebird Cafe, A Branch Full of Birds, from Deborah Riddle and illustrated by Joan Rankin. It's one of my favorite books, read it over and over, and I love birds. So my first one I'm going to read you guys is there we go. Hummingbird Search. I don't know if you guys can see the hummingbird right there. Hummingbird Search. If you spy a greedy bird who's the size of your thumb and he's covered all in sequins and you hear him hum and he helicopters down to the honeysuckle vine and he takes a big swig from the columbine and he flaps his teeny wings like a maniac, would you tell him that I miss him and ask him to please come back? There it is. I'm going to attach a fun little video that I took outside my window of a chickadee because I couldn't capture the hummingbird that was in that same bush the other day, but I hope you enjoy the chickadee. They're also called hamburger birds because they make the hamburger sound. They say cheeseburger, cheeseburger, but hope you guys are doing well. Look for another poem next week. Bye.
Hi Kodiaks! It's Wednesday, so it's time for Stories with Sheffels. The book that you chose on the Google form was Separate is Never Equal. It's the story of Sylvia Mendez and her family's fight for desegregation. So, prefix D means like not or un, so they were trying to get rid of segregation in schools in California. So this is a longer book, and you've just seen a really lovely bird poem from Miss Coiner. So to help with time, this is going to be a two-parter. So there will not be a survey for next week's book after this YouTube link because next week's book will just be the rest of this book. Okay, this is by Duncan Tunatua, and the illustrations are pretty cool. All right. Sylvia had on her black shoes. They were shiny new. Her hair was perfectly parted in two long trenzas. It was her first day at Westminster School. The halls were crowded with students. She was looking for her locker when a young white boy pointed at her and yelled, "Go back to the Mexican school. You don't belong here." For the rest of the day, Sylvia did not speak or introduce herself in her classes. She kept her head down when walking in the halls. When she got home that afternoon, she told her mom, Felicitas, what had happened. "I don't want to go to that school anymore. The kids are mean." "Sylvia," said her mother, "no sabes que por eso luchamos? Don't you know that is why we fought?" Three years earlier, in the summer of 1944, Sylvia and her brothers Jerome and Gonzalo Jr. and their parents had moved from the crowded city of Santa Ana, California, to a farm in nearby Westminster. Her father, Gonzalo Mendez, had labored for years as a field worker picking grapes and oranges. Now he was leasing a farm. He was going to be the boss. On their new farm, they were going to grow asparagus, chilies, and tomatoes. So that's what's called the flashback. And we've probably read other stories where it starts and then they flash back to some memories. And this is an example of one of those. So it started with her in a school, and now it's flashing back 3 years before to how they got there, what they fought for. As summer came to an end and the first day of school neared, Aunt Soledad drove Sylvia and her brothers and their cousins, Alice and Virginia, to the local public school on 17th Street so they could enroll. Sylvia was going to enter 3rd grade, Gonzalo was going to enter 2nd, and Jerome 1st. What a handsome building, thought Sylvia as they pulled into the parking lot. Tall trees lined the streets in front of the school. There was a playground with monkey bars and a red swing. When they walked into the school, they noticed that the hallways were spacious and clean. It's one of the best feelings walking into the fresh, clean school in the beginning of the school year. I look forward to that too. I'm here to enroll the children in public school, said Aunt Soledad when they arrived at the principal's office. The secretary gave Aunt Soledad 2 enrollment forms, one for Alice and one for Virginia, but she did not give her enrollment forms for Sylvia and her brothers. They cannot attend this school, said the secretary. They must go to the Mexican school. Why do I have to go to the Mexican school? Sylvia wondered. She was not Mexican. She was American. She spoke perfect English. Her father was from Mexico, but he had become a U.S. citizen. Her mother was from Puerto Rico, which was a U.S. territory. Aunt Soledad was upset. But we all live in this part of town. You see in this picture, this is Sylvia, and those are her brothers, and those are her cousins. And you might notice a little difference about their skin tone. Sylvia looked at her cousins. They had light skin and long auburn hair, and their last name was Vidari. Their father was Mexican, but of French descent. Then she looked at her brothers and her own hands and bare arms. She wondered, is it because we have brown skin and thick black hair and our last name is Mendez? Rules are rules, said the secretary. The Mendez children have to go to the Mexican school. I will not be enrolling any of them then, said Aunt Soledad, and she stormed out of the office, taking Sylvia and the other children with her. When they arrived home, Aunt Soledad told Sylvia's father what had happened. Mr. Mendez told her not to worry. It had to be a mistake. He would take care of it. He was a businessman, and he was used to dealing with people. The next day, Mr. Mendez met with Mr. Harris and the superintendent of the Westminster School. Mr. Mendez explained that his family had just moved to a nearby farm. The public school on 17th Street is the closest to our house, and my children should attend it. Your children have to go to the Mexican school, said Mr. Harris. Can you hear my children and my neighbor's cat? This is fun, huh? But why? Asked Mr. Mendez. He was not given an answer other than, this is how it's done. In the following days, Mr. Mendez met with Mr. Atkinson, the county superintendent, Mr. Harris's superior, and then with the school board, which oversaw all of the schools in Orange County. But they all said the same thing. Your children have to go to the Mexican school. But why? Mr. Mendez kept asking. No one would give him a satisfactory answer. Now, like one that satisfies him, one that really makes a difference. And if, based on your prior knowledge about some other types of segregation, I bet you know about the quality of the Mexican school building compared to the school for white kids. It's not going to be quite as nice. That fall, Sylvia and her brothers had to attend Hoover Elementary, better known as the Mexican School, on Olive Street in the city of Westminster. The building was a clapboard shack, and the halls were not spacious or clean. A cow pasture surrounded the school. The students had to eat lunch outside, and flies would land on their food. There was an electric wire that surrounded the pasture to keep the cows in. If you touched it, you received a shock. The school did not have a playground, not even a swing. But what's that? Cow poop. If you've ever been by like a cattle pasture, it doesn't always smell super great. Imagine that. Ooh. The Mendez family did not give up. Time and time again, Sylvia heard her father talk with coworkers, friends, and other parents. It's not fair that our kids have to go to an inferior school, he said. It's not only the building that's the problem. The teachers at the school don't care about our children's education. They expect them to drop out by the 8th grade. How will our children succeed and become doctors, lawyers, or teachers? Mr. Mendez created a group called the Parents Association of Mexican American Children. He tried to collect signatures from a petition to integrate schools so that all children, regardless of their skin color or background, could have the same opportunities. But every time he asked someone to sign the petition, he would get the same answer. No queremos problemas. No queremos problemas. We don't want any problems. Many of the parents worked on farms owned by white families and feared they would lose their jobs if they supported the petition. Puts them in kind of a tough spot, huh? One day, a truck driver overheard Mr. Mendez trying to convince a worker to sign his petition. You know, said the truck driver, you could file a lawsuit. The truck driver told Mr. Mendez about a lawyer named David Marcus who had filed a petition or a lawsuit on behalf of the people of San Bernardino and had helped them integrate the public pools there. At that time, not only were schools segregated, but other public places as well, such as pools, parks, and movie theaters. Some businesses even had signs that read, "No dogs or Mexicans allowed." Did you know around Hood River they had similar signs, but they said no dogs or Indians allowed? That would be pretty disparaging, pretty rude to see a sign like that. Mr. Mendez decided right then and there to hire Mr. Marcus, even if it meant having to spend all his savings to do so.
I put a ball on your alley.
Please stop. Over the next few months, Mr. Mendez and Mr. Marcus traveled all over Orange County looking for people who had experienced similar problems. Sylvia watched her father leave early in the morning. Sometimes she saw him come home in the evening, but often she only heard his footsteps when he got in late at night. While he was away, Sylvia's mother had to take care of the farm. Mrs. Mendez would get Sylvia and her brothers ready for school, and then she would go out to the fields. She started the irrigation system, drove the tractor, oversaw the workers, and solved any problems that arose. Often, this kind of important work takes a lot of teamwork from everybody involved. And that is actually where we're going to stop this week. So stay tuned to find out what happens. You know already that Sylvia gets to attend a white school in the end, or that schools get integrated because of the beginning of this story. But the fun part is seeing how it happens. Because the children are getting restless and it's starting to rain outside, so I'm going to go. But have a wonderful week, Kodiaks. Don't forget to check out Zoom recesses that are now happening if you'd like to see some of your friends from other classes or Christian and just have fun. And sometimes my children come in too. And yeah, be on the lookout for other opportunities to do virtual assemblies like our virtual Kodiak cross. All right.
And goodbye.